right, it's me. It's Johnny D with another episode of Outstanding Life Podcast, and I am so looking forward to this podcast, and I know you are going to be excited to hear this one. This one's all about a guy that I met, and I titled this one Midlife Career Change. Joe Downey in the studio with me right now. What's up, buddy?
Not much. How you doing, Johnny? Good to be with you.
Outstanding, man. I'll tell you what, it's kind of funny because I think you're the first one that it's actually been on the podcast that we went to the same high school. We're good Catholic boys.
Yeah, good Catholic boys. Southgate Aquinas, yeah.
So I titled this one Midlife Career Change because you did everything that people told you to do after high school.
I sure did. I am definitely not the poster boy for somebody that finds their passion early in life and follows it through in a straight line to the end. But yeah, I did what I was told. I did what I thought I was supposed to do. And I just found myself profoundly unhappy as life went on. You know, it's
so you went to school. You went to University of Michigan, and you went to school to be an engineer.
Right. I guess you could say I was bred to be an engineer.
So I mean, it just was your dad an engineer?
Yeah, my dad was he was both a mechanical and electrical engineer. He had like decades in the auto industry, almost 50 years before he retired. And my dad thought everybody should be an engineer. He really did. I mean, he just thought he had 6 kids. He tried to talk all 6 of us into being an engineer. And for me, it made a ton of sense because I was that kid, that would be riding around on his bike and take his bike apart, try to figure out how to make it go faster and jump higher and stuff like that. And, my dad would take me out in the garage and we'd wrench on cars together.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I rebuilt my first V8 engine when I was 13 years old.
No kidding.
Yeah. And
awesome.
bought my first car when I was 14. And, I restored it over like 2 years,
Right.
And when I was all done, it ran great and it looked like, a 16-year-old kid restored it. It looked pretty crappy, but
what kind of car was it?
It was a 68 Mustang.
Okay.
Yeah, it was cool, man.
Nice.
I was proud of it. In hindsight, it probably looked like garbage, but
So what kind of engineer were you?
So, I was a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
Yeah. So, my dad told me, you should be an engineer, and I knew how to wrench on things, and my high school counselors told me, hey, you're good at math and science. Why don't you be an engineer?
So were you really good in high school? Were you like one of those really smart kids?
No, I took all the hardest classes. They put me in all the hardest classes, and I did enough work to like get B's and everything.
Right.
And that's all the effort I put forth. And when I was going off to college, my dad just told me, just get C's. You just got to pass. That's all you got to do. You graduate as an engineer. You'll always have a job. All you got to do is pass. So that's what I did. I mean, I listened to my dad, listened to my counselors, and off I went.
That's so cool. I'm going to get right into this,
Sure.
Joe, because we only have an hour, and
Sure.
and I can't wait to even hear your story. So what was the moment? Like, when was the moment? The moment that you were working as an engineer, and all of a sudden it hit you. This is not for me. I have a better way to serve the world. Where were you? What were you doing?
Yeah,
what was the moment like?
Well, it was kind of a long process, but I'll make it as brief as I can.
No, I don't want you. We have an hour.
so I was working in the auto industry. So make a long story short, I graduated at 21 years old with a degree in mechanical engineering. The economy wasn't the best at the time, so what I always wanted to do was design cars. That's what I wanted to do. The economy wasn't great, but it's still good enough. I got a job at 21 years old working for Ford Motor Company. They hired me as a manufacturing engineer. Okay. So in my mind, it's like, okay, someday I can design cars, but for now I'll take this job that they're offering me as, at the time, a ton of money for a 21-year-old punk kid.
Yeah.
So what that basically meant was I was a guy that lived out of a suitcase. I traveled nonstop. So
welcome to my world.
Yeah, right on. It's tough life. So 5 years for Ford and 2 years for GM, I traveled nonstop. 700 plus nights in hotel rooms in 7 years.
Wow.
And nearest I can figure between 500,000 and 750,000 miles flown. It was just, and my wife, I met her when we were kids. I mean, we wanted to get married, and we got married at a very young age and had kids at a young age. And it's like, that's not the way I want to raise my kids, and not the kind of relationship I want to have with my wife every other weekend. That's not what I wanted to do.
Yep.
So figured, okay, I'm gonna get into management in the auto industry, because it never really worked out where I got into the product end of the business. Once you're in manufacturing, you're always in manufacturing. It's kind of the way it works out. So went to graduate business school, got my MBA. Got a great job working for a supplier.
Yep.
Got off the road. solve that problem. You know.
So you solved the problem and got married?
Well, yeah, I got married at age 22.
Oh, wow. So, okay, a year after college.
Yeah, we were married while we were going through this process of me not being there ever. And
so life was good then. For her.
Well, she had 2 little kids at home, a job. You know, it wasn't. Believe me, she had it a lot worse than I did. But so yeah, you know, so I got this job as a manager in the auto industry, and you know, it was good from a lot of respects. From, you know, an outside person's perspective, I had the life, man.
Yeah.
You know, I had solved my problems. I wasn't on the road all the time. I traveled some, but not a crazy amount. Made a lot of money, had a nice house, cars, boats, vacations. You know, the kids in their private schools.
Yeah.
You know, it was a good life from the outside. But the part that I guess was terrible for me, and it was mostly self-induced, you know, upon further reflection, but I couldn't get away from the job. Yeah. You know, it was 24/7 responsibility. What it basically consisted of is we would build tools for the auto industry.
Okay.
Monday through Saturday, we'd design and build them in our shops. And on the weekends, holidays, we'd send our field service crews out to various parts of the world and put these tools in plants.
Right.
Well, it never go as planned. You know, our field service crews would be calling me at night, calling me on the weekends, calling me on the holidays. And remember, like, you know, having like a Thanksgiving meal with my family and get a call from Mexico. It's like, oh, we're all jacked up down here, man. This didn't work. We need this, we need that. And we got to run on Monday morning. And I'd be wrecked. I mean, I'd just be wrecked for the whole weekend. It's like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get this done? What if this contingency plan doesn't work? It's like, I just let it eat me up. I mean, I had zero ability to dissociate from my work. Zero. I mean, just none.
Yeah.
And, you know, character flaw, you know, or whatever you want to call it, but it was ruining my life. It really was. And if it's ruining my life, believe me, it was ruining my wife's life as well.
That's right.
She was there supporting me every step of the way, and I put through a lot of grief because, you know, feeling sorry for myself, whatever the case may be. And, you know, she's trying to talk me out of it, you know, trying to, you know, saying, hey, look at all this that we got to be happy about. And
isn't that funny in life how people look at you from the outside looking in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they think that, wow.
Yeah.
Look what they have.
Yeah.
But they don't realize really what's going on the inside.
Right. Right.
Isn't that kind of, it's just kind of crazy.
It is kind of crazy. And, you know, and I used to do that to people.
Yeah,
you know, if I'd pick up or pull up to a light and look over the guy next to me, it's like, oh man, look at that car.
Yeah.
You know, look at that watch. You know, it's like, wow.
Right.
He's rocking it.
Right. Yeah.
You have no idea. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, he may be the happiest guy on the planet, and he may be up to his eyeballs in debt, and every single thing, including the coffee he's drinking, might be on credit. You know?
So you're working, life is good from the outside looking in.
From the outside, life is great.
But you're not happy on the inside.
I'm not happy. So, you know, there I am. I'm, you know, 40 years old or whatever, and it's like, you know what? Something's got to change. Something's got to change. You know, you know, looking back, I had 3 options. I'd either just suffer through it, which didn't seem like a great option.
Right.
Or I learned to deal with that, you know, learn to dissociate from my work, which probably would have been the most sensible option. Right. But that's not what I did. I decided, you know what? I'm going to just reinvent myself. I'm just going to start over.
So we call these moments aha moments.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you were? Were you at work when you made that final decision to say, okay, I'm going to start either going back to school or I'm going to get a different job? Did you have a plan? Because most people don't even have a plan. They just walk in and they quit and do something crazy.
Well,
you did something crazy.
Yeah, I did something crazy, but it's probably not as crazy as you think. Because I mean, I do what engineers do. You know,
right?
We analyze and analyze and analyze, and you know, I made this huge matrix on my laptop of what can I do. And nothing was off the table at the start. I looked at everything, man. I looked at going to medical school. I looked at going to dental school. I looked at buying a franchise. I looked at starting a business. I looked at, you know, going even law school. And, you know, some things I considered way more seriously than others. But, you know.
You wrote them all down. You made a list.
And then, so I'm getting nowhere. And I thought, you know, and I wasn't getting anywhere. I mean, some things I had to cross off the list because I just knew they were probably not feasible from a financial standpoint.
Right.
But so this is at the age where my kids were approaching their teenage years, or maybe they were teenagers at this point. And, you know, you do what any parent does. You start to have to give your kids advice about their careers. So the thing I always told my kids was, don't just figure out what career fits your skill set. figure out what you want your life to be like. Like design your life. Like ask yourself all sorts of questions like, how much money do I really need to make? Not don't say $10 million. Be realistic.
Right.
You know, how much do you need to make to be happy? Is traveling for a living acceptable to you? Is working weekends acceptable to you? Is working holidays? 24/7 responsibility acceptable? You know, all these kinds of things. I told him, you got to ask yourself these questions.
This is crazy. Wait a second. So you were giving your kids advice, but really you were getting ready to take your own advice.
Yeah, it's funny because
like you were looking in the mirror going, holy crap.
Yeah, it took me a minute to figure that out. It's like, wow, well, you know, it's good advice for my kids. Why is that not good advice for me?
Right.
So I wrote down what's important to me. And I kind of redefined what success meant to me. And when I did that, I was able to start crossing a lot of things off the list. And what I arrived at was nursing. You know, the big thing there, two big things. One was I got rid of that 24/7 responsibility.
Yep.
No doubt about that. Number two, I wanted a more immediate sense of feedback that I was doing good for other people.
Yep.
And, you know, I couldn't say that I didn't have that in the auto industry, but, you know, it's not like the guy that's driving his Mercedes-Benz comes and thanks you for building the tools that put his instrument panel in his car. You know, they just don't do that. And I don't know, you know, call it selfish, whatever, but I wanted that sense of immediate feedback from my work. And I knew I'd get that.
So it wasn't the money then?
Absolutely.
Because you had money, you had status, you had ego.
Yep.
I mean, everything that a man looks for after 20 some years of doing their job. You had it all.
I had it all.
And okay, so wait a second. I just have to, I didn't know any of this. So you walk in, how long did it take you from the time you made the decision to the time that you started your new job? And wait a second, before you even answer that, what was it like when you went to your wife and said, hey, babe, guess what? I'm going to quit my job. We're going to go in debt $100,000. And guess what? But I'm going to make you happy.
Right.
How did that all work out?
I mean, you tell me she's not a saint. You know, okay, so really, let's put it into perspective. It's like, oh, hey, honey, I'm going to probably spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, you know, when you consider lost opportunity costs and the cost of education and interest payments and everything, I'm going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars so I can get a career where I make somewhere between a third and a half of what I'm making now. And she went for it. And you know what? I mean, if that ain't true love, I don't know what is.
Wow.
I mean, man, she's a saint.
So let's just put this into perspective. If you're just now listening and tuning in, so Joe gives up a job making great money. He has status. He has everything. He goes to his wife and says, we're going to get in debt a couple $100,000 to make less money, but it'll make me happier. And she said, yes.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely not a couple $100,000 in debt. You know,
no, but you know what I mean.
Fortunately, we had a lot of cash saved up. You know, we were savers. So that, you know, that went a long way. But nonetheless, our kids were going to college at the same time I was reinventing myself. So yeah, it added up a little bit. We got a little debt, but not.
Right. No. But you know what I mean? But still, I mean, and your wife's mind, she's got to be thinking, wait a second.
Yeah, well, I tell you what.
This is crazy.
The most supportive person I have ever met in my life. No doubt.
They say behind every good man, there's a better woman. And obviously you found her, and that's a good thing. How long have you been married now?
We've been married almost 30 years.
Almost.
Yep, almost 30 years. Yeah, we've been together for almost 35 years now. Yeah, since we were kids.
Man, during this process, all the school, all the loans, were there ever times when you really start asking yourself, what the heck am I doing? What the heck am I doing? I must be nuts.
Yeah, well, no, not really. Not in the whole nursing thing.
Yeah.
You know, I did for a short time go back to a graduate school after I became a nurse to be an advanced practice nurse.
Okay.
And that just felt all wrong. So that is like, this didn't feel right. That I stopped. But, you know, it was kind of weird because that was really kind of my plan, was to be an advanced practice nurse of some kind. And a funny thing happened on the way. I just loved nursing. I loved bedside
So why nursing though?
Well,
I mean, we never even. I want to get into this. Why nursing?
Well,
engineer to a nurse. That doesn't even make sense in my mind.
Yeah, a lot of it is a quantitative thing. So, you know, I was looking for something that I knew I could make decent money at if I worked a lot of hours. And nurses can work 100 hours a week if they want. So I knew the hours would be available. I knew the jobs would be available. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, that lack of 24/7 responsibility. Number three, the ability to get an immediate sense of satisfaction from the work that I did.
Yeah.
And, you know, another, maybe a smaller thing, but still important, was the fact that I knew that going up in years, I want to work until I'm an old man. I love working. I get a great sense of satisfaction from working. Mm-hmm. And as a nurse, you can work a long time. You know,
Yeah.
and you can cut the hours way back. You know, you can work 8 hours a week if you want when
Right.
you're an old person. So,
Yeah.
that was kind of where it's at, and it was
Wow.
yeah, it was a feasible transition.
So did you come from, I know you said your dad was an engineer, but did you have other people in your family that got into nursing or in the medical business, and that's what maybe persuaded you to go that route? Or was
No,
it just
not really.
something that
Not
you
really.
just-
You know, my brother is a physician.
Mm-hmm.
An administrator, is a CEO of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. But I talked to him about it at one point. He's like, "You want to get into a hospital? Just work in administration." You know, I was like, "Well, that's not what I have in mind, because that's 24/7
Right,
responsibility."
yeah.
And he's one of those people that he can just turn it on and off, man. You know,
some people,
some people are great at it.
Yeah, I'm not.
I just can't do it.
Not me. I'm all
Yeah.
in or I'm all
Yeah.
out.
And I shouldn't say that I can't do it. I never put a good effort forth to
Yep.
try and do it, and no regrets. I mean, no regrets. That's I'm at where I should be at.
What was the most challenging part of giving up that job and getting into nursing?
Well, I mean, certainly the step down in lifestyle. It took a little getting used to, but you
went from going from Campbell's soup to ramen
believe
noodles.
Believe me, we never missed a meal. We never missed a meal. But we had to pare back our lifestyle. You know, I went from driving a new company vehicle every year to driving an Econo box, because that's what I could afford. I had to get rid of the boats, and that's such is life.
I have to. This is so cool. And now that you have made that shift and you found what I would call your instrument in the Orchestra of Life, do you feel that now your life has more purpose?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I never.
I'm seeing you smiling right now.
Oh,
I mean,
man,
so
I tell you what. I mean, and anybody that knows me, that's known me for a long period of time, they know that I'm way happier now than I've ever been. And
I just saw that great big smile that was coming up on your face.
Yeah, so I mean, I have purpose. I absolutely have purpose, but I always felt like I had purpose.
True, but it's different, isn't it?
It is
because now you went from something that was tangible to something that is more mental, and so you know what I mean.
That is a fact, and my wife says that quite frequently. It's like, life's more about experiences than things, and she's dead on.
We all have a story. I mean, when I asked you to be on the podcast, you're like, me?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, wait a second. You have a great story. Did you ever think in a million years growing up that you would be a nurse?
Absolutely not. If somebody told me at age 15, as I'm covered in my grease-soaked coveralls pulling an engine out of my car, hey, you're going to be a nurse when you're 50-something. Like, yeah, right. That ain't happening. And if somebody told me that at age 35, I would have said the same thing. There's just no way.
What aspects are better now than they were before?
Oh man, from the whole life perspective thing, I think we had fairly similar upbringings, but I knew nothing about diversity in life and tolerance of other people and other people's viewpoints. For instance, I grew up in a all white neighborhood. Went to an all white Catholic school. Our high school, 900 kids, there might have been 40 that were of color. Went to college, it was even less diverse because it was all white males. There wasn't even hardly any girls in there. So it was like, boy, I knew nothing about diversity, and then hired in to the auto industry. No diversity at all. So all white males. And as time went on, got pretty diverse, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought about this, towards the end of my career. I was in this meeting in Atlanta, and sitting around having lunch with a group of engineers. We were all working on the same project. Some were suppliers. Some of them worked directly for GM. I was a supplier at the time. And somebody had mentioned, hey, we're all from different parts of the world. And we all started talking like we're this really diverse group. And we were. I mean, it was funny because, we're from all different parts of the world eating at a Thai restaurant.
Right, yeah.
So we know something about diversity, and felt like I did at the time, right? And real early in my nursing career, I realized, I didn't know much about diversity. We might all been different colors and different religions, but we weren't all that different. We were all engineers.
Yeah.
We were all middle class that went to college and became engineers, worked in the auto industry. Even though we didn't look the same, we had a lot of similarities. So this is a quick story.
No, please.
So I'm in nursing school. And
what was that like to go back to school? That had to be weird by itself.
It was weird, but the timing was all right.
Okay, perfect.
Because the auto industry was falling apart at the seams. The economy was falling apart at the seams at the time. So there's a whole bunch of people in my class, and it was a second degree program.
Yeah.
Where we all had bachelor's degrees already, or at least bachelor's degrees, and just had to go for a year to become nurses. So there was a lot of people that got displaced from various, there were pharmaceutical sales reps in there, line workers from the auto plants that had bachelor's degrees that, were getting a second bachelor's degree. So it was pretty diverse. And
okay. Were you the oldest one in your class?
I was not. As a matter of fact, there was 2 people older than me in the class. Neither one of them made it. They were both done. Yeah. I was the oldest one to graduate in that class.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So get back to your story. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So we were talking about diversity. So I'm in a clinical group. That's where you go out as a group of students, like 6 of us, into a unit in a hospital. This was labor and delivery. I was going to watch and see how babies are delivered. And believe me, I wanted zero to do with it. I wanted nothing to do with it, man. It's not a part of nursing I was ever going to be interested in. I just thought it was kind of creepy. Here's this 40-something-year-old guy going to help this young girl deliver a baby. What does she want me there for?
Yeah.
She doesn't. I don't want to be there. It's just going to suck. So I go there. There's 5 girls in my group and me. And they must know that it's a tough thing for guys because the staff there was awesome to me. It was like, hey, come here. So this nurse comes, hey, they're going to deliver in this room over there. Just go walk in that room and jump right in. I'm like, oh, brother. So you got to picture this because I'm in white. Our uniform from this school was white scrubs, white scrub top, white scrub bottoms, white shoes. And here comes this, 200-pound bald guy looking like the Good Humor Man into this room. And they stare at me like I'm from outer space. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go over by the blinds and blend in. They're white too. So I'm just standing against the wall, trying to just stay out of the way. And the nurse comes over that's responsible for that room. She starts telling me the story. Says 21-year-old female going to deliver her 5th child. I'm like, oh boy. And the baby daddy is like, he calls himself baby daddy, but we're going to be more respectful of that. We're going to call him the boyfriend. This is his first. I'm like, okay. So I kind of got the picture and, learn a lot about socioeconomic diversity at this point. So the boyfriend is instructed to stand next to his girlfriend and hold her hand and kind of hold her leg up as she's pushing. So she pushes and some amniotic fluid comes flying out of her onto his shoes. He just drops her hand, drops her leg, and is like, oh man, I got shit on my shoes, and leaves. He's gone. So the nurse like, get in there, yelling at me. Get in, like, oh God. so I got to go and hold her hand and hold her leg, and she pushes and delivers this beautiful baby girl. It was really cool, So
wow.
So then they take the baby and wrap it up and hand it to mom, and about 90 seconds, 2 minutes later, she looks at me and is like, here, take the baby and give me a menu. I'm like, okay. So I grabbed the baby and I didn't know what to do with it. So the nurse comes and, does whatever they do with it, put it in under a warmer or something. And I go find a menu and give her a menu. It's like, wow. It's like, Dad wasn't here. Mom's interested in a Philly cheesesteak and not the kid. It's like, left kind of bummed out, but so I'm passing judgment because that's what I do, right? Because I don't know jack about diversity.
Right.
And on my way out of there that day, I walked by another room and there's like a party in there. This person had delivered and they got balloons and they got, Dad's got his buddies slapping him on the back, and it's like I'm thinking to myself, well, that kid's gonna have a great chance at life, and this one that I left doesn't. It's like, man, that's so wrong of me to do that. It's like,
is that life like that though?
I don't know that. I have no idea. That girl's 7 years old or so now, and they might be doing great. And odds are probably not. But you can't be a judge of people when you're a nurse like that. You're exposed to
so
every
how tough is that though?
It is. It's tough, but you empathize, you sympathize. You try to put yourself in the other person's shoes, and man, you learn a lot about diversity and a lot about life. And not everybody's the same. Not everybody came from the same spot, and everybody looks at the world through the same glasses. And
that's
you
so
gotta
true.
Be patient and understanding of other people's viewpoints. That's for sure.
So how many more babies have you delivered since then?
That was it. Yeah, that was the last one. Well, as part of that same rotation, I went into a C-section, and I saw that, and never since, man.
And you've been a nurse for how long now?
So I guess 7 years now, yeah.
So, and you've only delivered one baby?
Just one baby,
and that's it?
Yeah, spent pretty much...
You hear a baby, and you go the other way and go down break
right
or
on.
something?
Yeah, right on. Yeah.
You go get the menu, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've pretty much critical care. is what I've done. And you know, something different more recently, but critical care is my background.
Okay.
You
know? So let me ask you this. You're sitting around having coffee with somebody and he or she says to you, you know, Joe, I can't figure it out, man. I can't figure this out. And you're like, what? I have a job that is making me miserable. I need something else. What advice can you give he or she that needs that change? That kind of step to help them get their sweet spot like you found.
Yeah, I mean,
because I guarantee you there is a lot of people right now listening to this going, wait a second. He was 40 some years old, gave up everything, including good money, to be a nurse.
Yeah, no, I get that a lot.
Yeah.
Believe me, I get that a lot. And so
you're sitting around having a beer or a cup of coffee with somebody, and they say to you, Joe, hey, listen, man, I'm miserable. What do you say?
I would ask the question, what is your definition of success? Mm-hmm. And if you don't have an answer to that, you're probably going to stay miserable.
Problem number one.
Yeah,
right there.
problem number one. And you know what? I had the wrong answer to the whole time. You know, I just thought make more money, be happier, make more money, be happier. And it doesn't work that way. You know, I'm not trying to say I was John D. Rockefeller, but you know, we weren't hurting for money.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. You know, it's kind of funny because when people ask me that, I say, figure out the things that you don't want in life and you'll get what you want. And they stop. And there's like that long pause. Like, wait a second. It's that simple? Yeah. You keep telling me what you want instead of telling me what you don't want.
Right.
Figure out what you don't want and you're going to end up with what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, that I think that kind of goes along with what I was, the advice I was giving to my kids. You know, define what you want your life to be like. You know, envision that perfect life for yourself. And, you know, there's nothing perfect, but you know, what are the big macroscopic things that you need out of your life? So design that and figure out, okay, what kind of work, what kind of career can I get to fit into that big picture?
Joe, I couldn't wait to ask you this, but have you ever had one of those moments that you walked out of the room and had to pinch yourself? Like, let's just say that something just happened to somebody and they recovered.
Yeah.
And you walk out of the room and you're like, man, that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was so cool. Like, I had a part to do with them getting better.
I have. And, you know, I've had many of those instances, and you know, that's
can you share one?
Yeah, absolutely. But there's the one beautiful thing about nursing is you have a lot of those instances. Now, working in critical care, you know, in an intensive care unit, you lose a lot more than you win.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story where we can see the range of emotions just in one day. And so then one of the critical care units that I've worked in over the years, and is towards the end of my midnight shift. So it's, you know, approaching the morning hours, and I get a call from the charge nurse saying, "Hey, you got an admission coming into your room. It's going to be from the emergency room, and they're going to call you with a report." So the emergency room nurse calls me and says, "Hey, I got this 34-year-old female, massive hemorrhagic stroke, and what that means is she's got a brain bleed."
Oh, wow.
Brain bleed. So patient comes up to me, patient's on a ventilator, got some medications infusing basically to keep her alive. And I do my assessment of her, and it's like, this isn't good. This isn't good at all. You know, there's not much activity, and it's like, this is not a good situation. Towards the end of my shift, so I passed it off on the day shift nurse, right? Go home feeling pretty bad about this one. It's like, this is not going to end well. I know that. So I hadn't even met her family yet because it was right at shift change. And so come in the next day for my midnight shift, and the day shift nurse gives me a report and says, yeah, you know, it's not looking good, man. We did a set of brain death testing. She was brain dead on the first set of testing. But the way it works is you always have to do a second set. So a second set, she said, is going to be in about an hour and a half from now. And she is a gift of life donor. She checked it off on her driver's license as she's in any and all organs, right?
Right.
So she said, you know, if second brain death testing is positive, she's going to be a gift of life recipient. So I walk in the room, and now I'm meeting the family, right? And her mom and dad are there, her husband, young guy there, and a 9-year-old daughter. You know, it's like, this sucks, you know, just sucks. So, you know, I make casual conversation with them, kind of run through what the night, you know, what's coming our way. And sure enough, you know, the neurologist comes in after a little while and asks family to leave so we can do our testing. So I assist them in the testing, and she's brain dead. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts.
And she was how old?
34 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough. So, you know, you try to keep it together, and, you know, the family comes back in, they get the news. And, you do what you can to hold it together. And here comes the daughter, 9-year-old girl. And, I'm just trying not to make eye contact because I just don't want to, I just don't want to do that. And I look down and she's got a card in her hand. And the card says, get well soon, mommy. It's like, gosh, man, it just wrenches at you, your heart, It's like, all I want to do is I just want to go home, hug my wife and go to bed. I just want to, but you can't, because what happens at that point is she becomes a Gift of Life recipient or donor rather. And it sounds like an easy process. It sounds like you just march them down to the operating room and remove their organs.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work that way. It's a long process, can take a day, 2 days, where you have to optimize everything physiologically, right? And it's work.
Yeah.
I mean, you're infusing all these medications, titrating things, assessing. Sometimes you pick the patient up and flip them on their belly for 2 hours, get the fluid out of their lungs, and then flip them back over on their back. And it was exhausting. And I knew what was coming. This is important work. But, step one, I do my best to express my condolences to that family. And that was awful. Just awful. What do you say to somebody like that? It's just...
How do you not get emotionally attached, Joe?
Oh, God. I mean,
I was thinking about this all day today.
You do sometimes. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't shedding a tear. When I saw that little girl, I mean, I had to step away for a minute. It was just, just wrenching. And you could just see they were just numb. They didn't know what to do. I'm talking to them, and they just couldn't believe it. Absolutely could not believe the situation at hand. And so they left, and I know whatever I had said to them was wholly inadequate. Man, there was just what can you say? I mean, there's nothing you can say to make it any better. But they left, and all I knew was that that's done. There's nothing I can do with that now. But what I can do is work as hard as I can to make sure that we get these organs if they're able to be saved. And man,
because it can save somebody else's life.
We busted it. And I tell you what, we busted it that night, and the next day she moved out of there. They retrieved all of her organs that were viable. And, 2 weeks later, you get the letter from the Gift of Life Michigan saying that, that this organ went to a person of this age and sex, and this organ went to the person of this age and sex. And just a whole list of people's lives that you just saved through the efforts. First of all, the selfishness of that patient and family, and our efforts. It's like, man, we saved a lot of lives. It's like, on the one hand, just like, you look at yourself in the mirror, it's like, what a feeling of dejection that you could not save that person. Yeah. On the other hand, it's like, man, we did good work. We saved people, and that's good stuff.
Yeah. No, you walk out of there going, man, I really made a difference.
Absolutely.
in people's lives today.
Yeah.
So let's take it from that extreme, because you almost made me cry 3 times, to have you ever been in a situation where they did not want your help at all? Maybe they came in and they were drugged up or whatever. They wanted to fight you. Yeah. They wanted to, do something, or the family was crazy.
Oh man, this is unfortunately more of the norm than the exception sometimes. But yeah, I mean, you get that all the time.
Are you serious? Wait a second.
Yeah.
I thought that this would be a funny question, but it's really not.
No, not. We get that all the time. I mean, you would not believe how many people are in the hospital going through delirium tremors, because of alcohol addiction. You take them off of their alcohol for a couple of days, and it's just a brutal process. And yeah, I mean, it's not an unusual thing. And, I quite often now work in a neuro ICU where people that get brain injuries, get conked in the head pretty hard, and they kind of lose their mind, It's hard dealing with those
and
people.
You're a big dude. So have you ever had somebody kind of come at you?
Man. It happens. And, you try to not have to wrestle them down. But I remember the start of a shift. Geez, it was a couple of years ago. But, I get a report from the unit manager, like, yeah, your patient, I just started, and your patient's in the room. I tucked them in, they're all fine. And I walk in the room, and there's this, 60-something-year-old guy standing there, totally naked in his room, ripped his IV out, so he's bleeding all over the place. And like, oh, hello, sir. Let me see if I can help you get back to bed. And he's, F you, MFer. Like, oh, wow, this is going to be a long 12 hours.
That's great. So how do you deal with, because when you have, and I don't know how because I'm not a nurse, but I'm assuming when you come in, you have multiple patients, correct?
It depends on the level of acuity. I mean, it can range anywhere from half a patient where there's 2 nurses in one room, to 3 patients, at the most.
So how do you give one patient that needs a little bit more care, but you're supposed to give all the people the care.
You got to prioritize. That's you just got to prioritize, and you prioritize it based on the acuity of their illness, not necessarily on the needs of them or their family. So,
right.
And that's hard to do because you want to do a good job for everybody, but sometimes you just can't because this person that's there and they're sick and they need a lot of care and they got no family there. They're the easy one to forget about and keep answering the call light and trying to keep the person that's on that call light happy.
Yeah.
That from a patient satisfaction perspective makes sense, but it doesn't make sense to me. I got to take care of the person that's sick first.
Joe, how do you deal with one patients and two families that don't understand the big words that you nurses and doctors use?
Well, I mean, that's a big part of a nurse's job is to educate their patients and families about what to expect, what we're doing. And
did you have to educate yourself on how some of these words?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you're a really smart guy. You do a lot of reading and stuff like that, but some of these words you guys use, I mean, I got to be honest with you, it sounds like a different language.
Yeah, we got tons of acronyms and tons of words that nobody understands. But you just have to put it into layman's terms, and most people will understand that. I mean, some people, and again, this diversity thing.
Yeah.
You deal with some patients and families that got education levels that never probably got past the second grade.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a real challenge because that's hard to do. I mean, usually if we're talking at a 7th grade level or above, I can make it happen. But below that, it can be a challenge. I draw pictures. I do whatever I need to.
Have you ever dealt with a patient that couldn't communicate with you because maybe they got their throat cut or something like that, and they like how do you communicate with somebody like that?
You have to figure out what works and what doesn't. I mean, I've had patients with what they call a locked-in syndrome, huge neurological insult, where they understand you, but they can't communicate in any way, shape, or form. I had one guy, all I could do was blink his eyes. We were just blinking.
So you had to figure out, he can blink his eyes, so I'm going to ask him questions, and 1, 2, 3.
Twice for yes, once for no, or
really?
Whatever the case may have been. But we communicated quite well, and oh man, it was tough, because I know he wanted to express some emotions, and it's pretty hard to do that just with the blinkings of your eyes. But
Joe, has anybody ever came back and thanked you for saving their life?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, yeah. I mean, and
Please tell me, yeah.
Yeah. So I cared for this gentleman, and I mean, I don't want to let too much out of the bag here, but so he was a really, really smart guy and a PhD level guy, and he got really sick and septic, and just went into multi-system organ failure and just was sick as could be. And he was in our ICU for like 40-something straight days. And his wife was an extremely difficult person, just, really demanding. She really cared about him, just super demanding, though, and, would fire staff left and right. And for some reason, she liked me. So I got the pleasure of caring for this guy for like 40-something straight days, every day that I was there anyway. And I worked really hard for him, and there were some nights where it's like, man, I just wanted to make sure we kept him alive through the end of the shift. I just didn't want to, explain to his wife that we lost him, even though I thought we were many a times. But anyway, he ultimately recovered. It was a long, long road. I mean, I think he was in the hospital for 80-something days overall.
Wow.
And so right about this time, I left that hospital and went to the University of Michigan, and I still had a contingent job there, and this manager kept calling me and saying, "Hey, this patient, he wants to come and thank you. He's come up to the unit many a times, and he wants to thank you." His family told him what a good job I did for him, and so he kept calling and calling and calling, and finally it's like, "All right, give me his number." And I just texted him. It's like, "Hey, I appreciate your thoughtfulness. It was a pleasure to take care of you. Whatever." He's like, "No, I'm taking you to lunch." All right, finally I said, okay, let's go. So we went and had lunch one day, and we talked, and it was cool. It was really cool. He was very, very appreciative. Yeah.
What do you do to stay mentally in the game? Yeah. Because it has to be tough for you you never know what you're walking into.
Yeah.
You could walk into a great day where not much is happening, and then you could walk into chaos. You don't know.
You never know.
So how do you stay mentally and physically in the game?
It's it is kind of a mind game, and I heard somebody say once, I don't even remember who this person was, but there was some venture capitalist or something, and they were just talking about their childhood and their dad saying to them, no matter what you do, be world-class at it. And she was a copy girl. And, she said, I don't know what it means to be world-class at a copy girl, but I'm going to figure that out, and I'm going to be that world-class copy girl. And she did that every step of the way and became this, tremendously successful venture capitalist. Like, man, that's a great attitude to have.
Yeah.
I'm a nurse, and it's like every day when I walk in there, I say that to myself. All right, I'm going to be world-class. That means wiping bodily fluids from them. I don't know what world-class means there, but I'm going to do my good job. I'm not going to leave anything behind, I guess.
Yeah.
So I just try to go on with that mindset. And, some days are easier than others.
What about leaving?
What do you mean, leaving at the end of the day?
Like leaving work, yeah. Because that's got to be the most stressful.
Yeah. In what way?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking that you might have just spent 6 hours with a patient that you don't know if they're going to make it or not.
Yeah.
You're leaving with that stress of like literally leaving them with another nurse, another doctor, another, you know what I mean? And being men, we kind of want to be there because our ego gets involved. We want to help them even more.
Well, I got to say, I think the truth of the matter is you do get emotionally calloused.
Yeah.
You just do. Because I say working in critical care, you lose more than you win.
Yeah.
So, believe me, it's not uncommon to have to put somebody in a body bag during your shift. And that, it's part of life, and we all end up there, right?
Yeah.
We all die. And if I know that I did my best to make that a smooth transition or did my best to try to prevent that, then I guess that's all I can do. That's all I can know that I did my best.
Do you look at yourself, and I know what the answer to this is, do you look at yourself as a hero sometimes?
No, not really.
Okay, well, I'm going to say
really.
yes.
Well, thanks,
and I'm sure that there's a lot of people because first of all, not everybody can do what you do. You made a decision to do and be happy as a man. Yeah. After all these years, you're doing what you love because they say you never work a day in your life when you love what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, believe me, there's some days where I feel like I'm working,
Well, absolutely. No. But would you say now though, you've been a nurse for how long?
7 years.
7 years. Would you say that you're happier now than you were as an engineer?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Without
That's what I'm
without
talking
question.
about.
Absolutely.
So the craziest thing, okay, so you leave a job as a mechanical engineer. You become a nurse. You've been a nurse for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
You left and quit a job while your kids were starting college.
Yep.
And now your son's a doctor.
Yep.
And your daughter's a nurse. Did you think that you had anything to do with them becoming a doctor and a nurse? Or did you kind of say, well, listen, guys, this might not be the road to take?
Well, I tried hard to not say to my kids, you need to go do this.
Right.
I really did. I tried hard to not do that. I'm not saying there probably wasn't some instances where it's like, you should go do this. But again, I just, I tried to tell them, design your life.
Yeah.
Design your life, figure out what you want to do, what kind of life you want to have, and then pick something that fits into that. So, I mean, believe me, there's actually times where I tried to talk my son out of pursuing a medical degree. Because I just saw what these young residents go through. It's a tough life. And he's going through that right now, and he's still smiling. So, I he's doing his residency, and he's still smiling. And, my daughter, you always worry about your girls. You know what nurses go through in an emergency room.
Yeah, and especially you're there every day.
Yeah, I mean, I've never worked in an emergency room, but I mean, I've done some shifts there, but it's never been my full-time job. And it's like, man, that is a tough place to work. You got drunks and, muggers and thieves and prisoners and, people are just angry, and it's like a tough place to work. And it's like, man, I don't want my daughter working in a place like that. Well, she loves it,
Yeah.
And it was entirely her decision.
What's Christmas and Thanksgiving and family functions like now that the three of you, you got a doctor and two nurses. Yeah. Do you guys not talk about?
Oh no, we
business
talk a lot of shop. Yeah, we tell stories, and my kids tell better stories than I do. That's
really?
Oh yeah, they tell great stories.
What has been just one of the most heartwarming stories? I mean, because I guess, like you said, it gets to a point that you take yourself out of the situation, but there has to be once in a while that you get close to somebody.
Yeah. You try to not get too close, right?
Right.
You try to.
Well, we always say try.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah. So I had a guy that I hadn't seen in about 20 years, but he was an engineer that I worked with way back when. Oh
no!
As my
so
patient.
You knew this person?
Yeah, I know him, and he was struggling mightily. He had lots of problems, and man, we rekindled our friendship, as he was a patient of mine. And it was pretty cool, because I mean, he knew he was going to die. I knew he was going to die, but we relived some of the old stories.
He was your patient and you knew that he was.
Yeah. I mean, he knew it, it was kind of a situation. We were just, buying some time, but we all know that's the ultimate end, and he was pretty realistic about it. But, I was just able to get him talking about the good old days. And man, that made a big difference. He was smiling a lot. And I think, his family had told me he hadn't smiled in a long time. Mm-hmm. So it was a good feeling to be able to get him to do that again, even if it was just for a short time.
When people are about ready to pass, they have those situations where they start thinking about their past, things that they wish they would have done, maybe being a better father, a better mother, just doing different things. Have you ever been in the room and you're getting ready to lose somebody,
mm-hmm.
and they counted on you to be that person to vent on?
Yeah.
Do you kind of know what I'm talking about? Because
you'd be surprised that, there's a lot of people that they breathe their last breath having a ton of regret. And it's sad, it's sad that that's the last thoughts that you have are thoughts of regret
mm-hmm.
instead of thoughts of
happiness.
Man, I lived a good life,
yeah.
And believe me, I've had them both. I mean, I've had people flat out tell me that there's nothing I'd do different. Absolutely nothing I'd do different. I've lived a great life.
That's
me
this
right
is
now.
the end.
It's the end.
Yeah.
And I've had other people. It's like every step of the way was wrong. And
Joe, how do you handle that, man? I mean, I'm just sitting here asking you that question, and I mean, it's so sad.
It is sad, and most of those people that are at that point where they have a ton of regret, it's always somebody else's fault.
Oh yeah.
And that's,
don't take
obviously you can't say that. You
right.
have to sympathize and empathize and shake your head up and down
mm-hmm.
a lot and, keep them talking. Cause I mean, even though you're thinking this is BS, man, you're the problem, but maybe they weren't, again, you don't know what they went through. So you gotta be sympathetic. You gotta be empathetic. And
you're a Christian man.
Well, I struggle with that, John.
Okay.
I really do, man. I go to church, but if you wanted any moral direction based on religion from me, I'm the wrong guy to ask.
I guess the reason why I asked that is, one, I just assumed because we went to a Catholic school,
mm-hmm.
but I just wondered if you ever had to give somebody their last rites, or maybe they asked you, say, please, I know that you're not. I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm just the guy here.
The way that works in a hospital is almost every hospital will have a ministry staff of various denominations. So we always call for the appropriate denomination. If there's none that's appropriate, just some clergy member comes up and prays with the family. Now, if the family asks me to pray with them, I pray with them. I don't care what they're praying. I don't care if they're Islam, Hindu, Christian. It doesn't matter to me. Yeah. If they ask me to do that, I'm not going to turn it down.
What was it like for you going from dressing up every day to wearing scrubs?
Oh man, it was kind of nice. I go to work in my pajamas every day. It's great. I love it. And right now I work in a kind of a surgical type area, interventional radiology, and I just go in wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt and change into my sterile surgical scrubs every day. So it's fantastic.
Hey, so I see a picture. I did some research on you, of course, and I see. And I listen. I know you work out all the time.
Yeah.
You've been in bodybuilding competitions and stuff like that. But I saw that you ran a race with your daughter, and I know that you work out all the time, but I didn't know you're running marathons now. Are you going to be running like a triathlon or anything soon?
No. So this is the truth of the matter is I did a 5K.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like a whole marathon.
No. So
I missed the 5K part.
No, it was the St. Jude Memphis Marathon, and we go down to try to do the fundraising thing for a great organization down there. But I am kind of one of those guys. I am not much of a runner. I mean, I do a ton of cardio, but running is not part of my repertoire. I'm more of a, the bodybuilder sort of guy.
So is that something that you would say is kind of like a stress relief for you, is going to the gym?
Oh man, absolutely. I started lifting weights in 1976 at 9 years old. I can honestly say I have not taken more than 2 weeks straight off since 1976.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. It's part of it's just part of who I am. It's not
because of anything. It's just you've always done it.
Always done it. Yeah, it's habit.
Ever since I've known you, you've been doing it. So
it's habit.
And now you've even competed in natural bodybuilding competitions.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, man. I really, it's a great challenge. I just love the challenge because trying to get your body fat down to like a well below the 10% range is tremendously difficult.
Well, there's a reason why I run 3 to 5 miles a day and do the things, because I don't eat right. I don't do all the things right. Because again, we have to prioritize.
Yep.
Being on the road all the time, I can't eat right. Yep. I don't care how hard you try.
That's a fact. Yeah.
Again, it might be an excuse, but it's my excuse.
Yeah.
But it's so tough these days to say that, hey, I'm on stage for it doesn't matter how many hours or whatever, and then you mingle and you do all these things, and then you have to go get a salad or try to cook for yourself. No, listen, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
But for you, is that something that you do you take your lunch and stuff every day to work? Or okay, what is your favorite cafeteria food at the hospital? Since you're in the hospital all the time.
Honestly, I probably have bought cafeteria food twice in 7 years.
No, is that because you're cheap or you just don't like the food?
No, that was because I accidentally bought my wife's lunch with me instead of mine, and ran out of food because our volume of food is consumed is a lot different. Is
your relationship now better with your family now that you are doing something that you love every single day?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think so. I'm convinced it is from my perspective. And not like we ever had real significant relationship issues.
Right? No. But you know what I'm saying, though, because I mean, if we're happy, everybody else around us is happy.
Yeah,
that's all I guess I mean by that.
We're empty nesters now, and man, I think we're living a pretty good life. We're working more than we want, but that'll end soon, and
Give me another story. I mean, I know that you have just crazy stories here, and I mean, because we only have
let's see.
I can't believe we literally have about 10 minutes left and it's been an hour.
Yeah. Boy, let's see. I'll try to think of a good one here.
Do you ever get overwhelmed while you're thinking? Do you ever get overwhelmed at work?
Yeah, I do sometimes. And I absolutely do. And here,
it was kind of funny, just your face. Yeah. You're like, wait a second. Yeah, I do.
I do. And here's, I wish I could give you again, working in critical care, you got more battles you lose than you win.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget this one, man. This was kind of tough. So, part of the cardiothoracic ICUs, so we have what we call ECMO, extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, right?
Okay.
And basically what that can be used for is for people that are in complete heart failure or complete respiratory failure or both. Well, so people that are CF, cystic fibrosis patients, when they have a really horrible exacerbation of their disease and their lungs aren't functioning well, we'll put them on ECMO. We're basically got a couple of big cannula that are going into the patient's vasculature, sucking the blood out of their body through a machine, oxygenating it, and putting it back into their body. Basically taking the place of their lungs because their lungs are just not functioning properly. Well, taking care of a younger guy. He was in his 30s or something, and he had a really horrible exacerbation, and he was actually a relatively healthy-looking guy for a CF patient. And he was trying to get on a lung transplant list, but there's all these criteria that have to be met to get on that list. And part of it is, walking down the hall a certain amount every day while you're on this ECMO machine. And it's quite a process because you got all these tubes and stuff hanging out all over, and you're walking them down the hall and walking them back, and quite a process. But, got to know this guy really good because he's my only patient and he was there for weeks and weeks and weeks. And unfortunately, he didn't progress, and he kind of went backwards. And, it's just tough because, they basically told him, it's like, you're not going to get on a list. And he basically said, I'm done. Said, yank it. I'm done. He basically made that decision that this ain't living. I'm not going to get to the point where I can live like a normal person. I'm not going to get a lung transplant. I'm checking out. It's like, gosh, it's like you develop a friendship with a person like that, and they decide that, thanks. I mean, believe me, he was grateful for what we did for him, but he understood the reality of the situation. And he said goodbye. You know, that's part of the deal.
What's a phrase you live by every single day?
Oh man, just do good work for other people. That's phrase number one. And you know, this is my whole definition of success. Use my talents wisely to help other people, establish and maintain good relationships with those that I care about.
Yeah.
You know, and not just my family, but you know, my friends and the people that I work with. And you know, it's just not asking too much to try to have a good relationship with the people that you work with as well as your family and friends.
We're two adults. Have you ever learned a lesson from one of your patients and you walked out of their room going, I can't believe I just learned something from this person.
Yeah.
because we talk about diversity and all these things.
Well,
and then they almost like tricked you. You walked out of there and you're like, wait a second. I actually learned something from this person.
I did. And it's funny you asked that because, I always think of this guy when that kind of a question it comes about or I have a thought like that. So taking care of this guy, and he's basically a homeless person.
Okay.
You know, not much in the way of education, probably like a second or third grade education, and you know, had his substance abuse issues. And we got talking politics, you know, not because I brought up the topic of politics, but he starts talking politics and he starts talking about why he's going to vote for this guy. And basically why he's going to vote for this guy was all about the other guy was an idiot because of this and that reason. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's a pretty shallow reason to vote for somebody. And I walked out of the room and I thought, why am I going to vote for the guy that I'm going to vote for? And my answers weren't much deeper than his. And I thought, man, you know, okay, don't be judgmental of this guy. Maybe I should do a little more homework on my own part when I'm going out voting next time. Try to understand what are the topics that I'm voting for, and just don't vote for somebody because I don't like the person that they're running against.
I asked you about delivering a baby.
Mm-hmm.
You said it was one and only one. You've had people pass away on you more than once.
Lots.
Tell me about the time you saved somebody's life.
Well, believe me, it happens. You know, and
you got to have one of those aha moments, like, wow, I really been put here.
Yeah.
And you know what? And you have to walk out of there with your chest held high and you're like, you know, got that chicken neck going and like going, yeah, man, look at me. I just saved that guy's life.
No, absolutely. And you know, I mean, this wasn't
and I say that being funny, but I mean,
this absolutely
I'm
wasn't.
proud of you. You just sitting here knowing that you saved someone's life.
Yeah. This I mean, it's never just I saved their life.
I know. It's a team, but you happen to be
absolutely a team effort. But I remember we had a younger guy. I don't remember, he was 18, 20, something like that. And he got stabbed through an artery and basically sanguinated out on the street. You know, they got him into the emergency room. What they thought was too late. They were able to, you know, take him to surgery, keep him going, but they thought he suffered a massive, what we call an anoxic hit, which means that his brain was starved for oxygen for way too long. Okay. Neurologically, it looked like there was no chance this kid was coming back. And we were taking care of him for a few days. And I remember the intensivist explaining to the family, it was the girlfriend and the mom, that, you know, he's never going to be the same guy again. He's, you know, you should just let him go. And they said, no, we're not doing that. And sure enough, man, you know, the kid came around. I mean, and he came back to visit us.
Really?
Yeah, in the ICU. And, you know, he said, you know, he has troubles. You know, he has troubles like remembering stuff. He's in school, and school's more of a challenge than it ever was from before. But he's alive and he's functioning. And he remembered some of us. And it was pretty cool to see, you know. That,
when somebody walks in, I can just imagine you working.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden around the corner.
Yeah.
Was somebody you helped.
It's
like,
happened.
It's almost got to be like whole. Like
it's happened a lot of times, you know, where the patients come back and they visit you after you've taken care of them, and most of the time, let's be honest, you don't recognize them because you know they're you know, they don't have a tube down their throat anymore, and they don't have, you know, 20 IVs running into them. But
what about families coming back and doing something special for you? Yeah,
you know, the families will buy stuff for us every year, you know, and usually it's funny. I don't know why they think nurses always need to eat bad food, but it's always bad food. I mean, you know, not like poor quality, but
no, I got
not good for you food. And
what's the craziest thing you've ever received from somebody that you did something nice for?
Money in my scrub pocket. Yeah, it was, I'm just walking by and there was a very wealthy guy. We were taking care of his spouse, and we're just walking by and I feel something go in my pocket, and it was actually his daughter did it. And look in my pocket, there's $100. And he says, yeah, you need to share that with the other nurse that you're working with. I'm like, I can't take this. And he's like, I ain't taking it back. I'm a man in a wheelchair. You're not going to put it back in my pocket. And he's just off he goes. And it's like, so, we had to, put it in the kitty for the whole unit. But still, it was like, it was very nice of him. And his daughter said, oh, don't even worry about it. The $100 to him is like 50 cents to you. Don't even worry about it. And it's like, well, it's still, it's nice to be appreciative. But we can't accept stuff like that, And you don't do it for that.
No, of course not. But it's always funny to ask those questions. Joe, we literally have just a couple minutes, and I want you to just real quickly think about the things that we talked about today. I mean, you literally gave up everything after 40 years. You were 40-some years old, started a new career. Is there a story or a thought that you want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, I guess, that it's never too late to reinvent yourself. Life is a long process, hopefully. Hopefully it's a long process. So, if you're not happy with what you're doing, change something. I mean, there's never a situation where there's no way out. And, to reinvent yourself, really think hard about the big picture of what do you want? Define your own success. I guess that's where it all starts from.
Do you and your wife ever just look back 7 years and say, wow, I can't believe we did this?
Yeah, well, I do.
Or reminisce about it.
I mean, I'm not so sure that my wife looks back at it as fondly as I do. I mean, I am certainly more happy, and I'm sure this was way more stressful on her than it was on me. But, she's still smiling. She's, we still get along. Everything still seems to be just fine. So I put her through a lot in this process. But, I think overall we're both pretty pleased with where we're at in life.
Joe, as the motivational cowboy, I inspire audiences all over to live the outstanding life. You, my friend, when you think about this, do you ever think about how many people you inspire as well? I mean, think about that. You are such an inspiration to so many people. I mean, think about this for a second, Joe. You took all of your chips, you pushed them into the center of the table, you doubled down on you. That, my friend, is an example of living the outstanding life. Joe Downing, I cannot thank you enough for spending the last hour, not only with me, but with the people listening that you've encouraged and that you inspired and that you motivated today. I can't thank you enough for being on the Outstanding Life podcast. I hope you had fun because it doesn't even seem like it's been like, an hour and a couple of minutes, but
Johnny, I appreciate it. This is a lot of fun. I'm glad you had me. I really appreciate it.
Well, next time we'll just have to have next time we'll do it with your son and your daughter, or at least with your son, and we'll sit around drinking a couple beers and tell a bunch of lies to each other.
Sounds good.
This is Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, with this week's Outstanding Life podcast titled Midlife Career Change with my buddy Joe Downing. And don't forget, you can check out all of our podcasts at motivationalcowboy.com, soundcloud.com, Apple iTunes podcasts, and don't forget to check out my website at motivationalcowboy.com. You can find all the links there. Again, this is Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, telling all of you, be safe, have fun, and have yourselves an outstanding day. We'll see you next time on the Outstanding Life podcast.
Outstanding Life is a Soul Bridge Studio production.